effects of my miscreation. So this wasn't a miscreation right here. This was orchestrated perfectly. So we're going to just be really grateful for that. And Gary, I thank you for being the impetus of this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for wanting to study the course. You know it is my heart. It is how I think. It is how I talk. It has honed my life and given me so much freedom. So thank you for wanting to learn the course.
You're welcome. So anyway, I just actually, while you're talking, I hit the record button on here. So we are now recording, and people can watch us live as they can sit there and eavesdrop. And if you could look on your, I believe on your screen on your, what is it, your right-hand side, there's a feed of all the people on there. Some people might ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just because everyone's on there does not mean they're on there live.
Okay, okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Question. And I don't know what it's on your screen, but on my screen, I can see people who want to jump in. People ask questions. So if you see little comments on the side and people asking questions, making statements, feel free to just answer their question, because we are live on the internet right now. And eventually this will be something we'll post onto on a website that I have called Law of Attraction How To .website, not .com or .net, but .website, Law of Attraction How To. And that was kind of the inspiration behind this, is because I quit my job a few years ago because I wanted to quit my job and travel the world helping people live and dream big, as I do myself, as I wrote an obituary saying that. So I've been having no clue how that would work out, and I started doing some coaching, and you were my first coach after that. And so I decided, like, the law of attraction, why not do that? But the law of attraction doesn't really exist unless you actually, how do I have a see, there you go. So many people say law of attraction doesn't exist.
For me to give you some clarity on where you were going with that thought?
Oh, go for it. I'll let you do that in a second, so other viewers hear that. So I created it so I can actually create some sort of thing on how people to actually live and dream big themselves. And I use the law of attraction because everyone knows that phrase.
Right.
Went on a quest on, so you know what? I want to actually show people how to actually do that. And one of the things I found out or discovered in my so-called studies in life is that there's one primary thing that people are missing. And that's some sort of spiritual connection, or some sort of, however you want to call it, connection to one another, to the rest of the world and the universe.
Absolutely.
And like Star Wars is a great example of that. And I met you, and all of a sudden other things just started brewing, and I figured, you know what? I've been hearing about A Course in Miracles for years. I never actually looked into it. And I had a client when I was doing a coaching certification. I had a client who was struggling with a lot of stuff. I was like, just basic 101 stuff. It's like, stop once a day or 10 times a day and check in with yourself. How are you feeling? If you're feeling how you want to feel, go on with your day. If you're not feeling good, look, see where it's in your body, and you just acknowledge it. Don't judge it. Just acknowledge that it's there. And she couldn't figure out how to do that. Then she started talking about A Course in Miracles, and one of their exercises in there, and everything started making sense to her.
That's right.
So I said, well, I should, if I have my clients making breakthroughs with stuff that I need to study Course in Miracles. So I started reading stuff about it, and just reading the exercises alone
are amazing.
This podcast means nothing.
Yep. Doesn't mean anything. Right.
So I was in the middle of the night thinking to myself, lying in bed, says, I should talk to Dr. J about this. I'll do it tomorrow.
And here we are.
So I just woke up, went to my phone, typed in a message, let's talk tomorrow about this, and set it down and went back to bed, and boom, here we are. So I want to introduce, I've been talking for a whole lot. I think, Dr. J, kind of know where I'm at. Introduce everyone else to Dr. J. She's a coach. And, I would, instead of me trying to tell you who you are, I would rather you tell people who you are. So Dr. J.
Wow, that's so nice. That is so nice. I'm just one of the many yous. A Course in Miracles has honed how I think. I'm not special because we're all so special. We're all so special. We don't need to crave significance. And in fact, the Course teaches us that the craving for significance is part of the seat of suffering. So who am I? Dr. Janeen Detrick. I happen to have a doctorate in counseling, and I have used that as a personal development coach for the last 8 years for some of the preeminent gurus in the movie The Secret, which is all about the law of attraction, which, by the way, was wonderful. It has been fantastic for me, and it's been fantastic for everyone who applies it in their lives. And I also happen to be an avid fan of A Course in Miracles, and in fact, it has become the foundation for everything I think, everything that I teach. And I have had so many amazing insights and freedoms as a result of it, that the coaching certification program that I've been coaching coaches and training coaches all over the world for the last 8 years. And the fact is, I can't do it without A Course in Miracles precepts, because it is freeing. And for me, it's what works. Now, I want to make something very clear in saying that. For me, it's what works. Jesus channeled A Course in Miracles to two people, Helen Schuckman and William Thetford, back in the early 70s, 1973 through 1978. This is channeled material through the consciousness of Jesus Christ. Jesus channeled this with one purpose in mind. This purpose changes the perspective of everything you've ever thought you thought. It changes the point of view, and that changes everything and yields the fruit of the miracle in your life. So the one purpose that is very important, I want all of you listening who are new to A Course in Miracles to write this down. What is the purpose of the Course? Profound peace. So that you will literally walk in profound peace. Now imagine what that would mean for your life. If you literally had profound peace and no more suffering, would you worry about money, Gary?
Nope.
No, you wouldn't be worrying about money, because you have profound peace, knowing everything is being orchestrated, knowing you are provided for, being able to walk in the miracle. So literally, everything in your life becomes effortless and easy, which, by the way, does not mean you're not doing anything. You are, however, doing less and accomplishing more, because you're only doing those things which are, in fact, catapulting you forward and doing them through you. In other words, God energy is yes energy. When it is divine, and you're supposed to be doing it, the energy literally picks you up out of the chair, catapults you forward to the taking of action, and you get a lot more done in a lot less time with a lot less effort and a lot less spinning your wheels. So a lot of people are out there doing. And the Course helps us comprehend why we don't have to be doing all the time. We will be doing the things that are fun and fulfilling. We will be doing the things which are helpful when you understand how to apply the Course principles to your life. But because you function from a profound peace, you're not making bad, ineffective decisions. Bad, ineffective decisions. How many people out there can relate to this? I can't even begin to tell you how many times I spent buku bucks on a whole lot of different things that ended up yielding no fruit. Well, the fact of the matter is, a lot of that is because we based those decisions in egoic fear. The Course says it this way: fear of what we might not get, or fear of what we could lose. When we function from, oh, I have to do something to get money, you make a bunch of bad decisions, right? And you're messing up your life because you haven't been freed yet from the thoughts of need. And the Course yields the fruit of profound peace because it transcends, it literally lifts and elevates you from the thought of neediness and desperation into remembering who we really are and knowing what's really going on here. And it literally yields the fruit of profound peace. And then everything you choose to experience, you base your decisions on if it's helpful, and you ask for what the Course terminology calls the Holy Spirit's guidance. So to let me lay a little bit of foundation about the Course precepts, I want you to understand that when Jesus Christ channeled A Course in Miracles through Helen Schuckman and William Thetford in the 70s, first of all, they did not know what they had. They had raised a question because their relationship was a mess, and they were very preeminent psychologists, and it was important in working with the other psychologists on staff that their relationship heal itself. And these two people, ooh, we've all had relationships like that, right? We've all had them. Yeah. They were at odds against each other. And their boss said to them, you need to heal your relationship or you're both going to be fired, because I'm tired of the trauma and drama energy. It's not good for the whole staff. So they had a choice. We're either going to both get fired or we're going to look at each other and figure out a way to come to peace. So they raised the question, I don't know how to have peace with you. And they each raised it. I don't know how to have peace with you. And as a result of that, when you raise new questions, you get new answers. And the pure intelligent energy we have come to personify as God, I hope you're not offended by that terminology.
No.
We have come to personify as God. That pure intelligence gave them a new answer. And Helen began feeling these impressions, and then she wrote the words that Jesus was channeling to her, not even understanding what they had at first. She, by her own admission, says, I wouldn't have been able to do it without William's support, because of the fact that the two of them ended up corroborating on this, and it ended up being beautiful. Well, now let me give you some underlying principles for the Course, because this is an introduction to A Course in Miracles. And as you and I progress, Gary, and those who choose to join with us, progress in studying the Course, I want to start out by saying, initially, they did not copyright this material. Therefore, there are a few publishers who are grandfathered in. Eventually, there was a situation where one particular publisher was given the rights to publish the material, and that is the one publisher now. That particular person happens to be the publisher that I like to use, their rendition of the Course. And the reason I like to use it is because it's laid out in chapters and verses. So it makes drawing attention to a certain section very simple, because it's laid out with references. It makes it simple. That's why I like it. So this particular URL for A Course in Miracles is actually, I'm going to give you the exact ISBN number for the one I use. All right, Gary? Be prepared to write this down. I'll also write it down in the chat. Okay, so the hardcover, which is what I prefer to use because I also like to write notes and underline and highlight in my studies. So the hardcover works for me, but there are also soft covers available and paperbacks. Okay, the ISBN is 978-1-883360-
Hold on, wait, I was trying to type stuff. You want to start over again? I'll type it as you actually.
Oh, are you going to type it into our chat? That'll be excellent. Yeah, please do that for our listeners, Gary. 978.
978.
1 hyphen 883.
1883.
Yes. And then 360 hyphen 25 hyphen 2.
So I just now typed it in, see if I typed it
Excellent.
right.
Okay, let me look at it. 1883360 Excellent. That's the
Cool.
ISBN number for the one that I use. So that if a person listening and who wants to follow along with our lessons would like to use the same book, it makes referring to things and asking questions easier. Okay, and it'll make it easier for you as well, Gary. Now, they do make it in a large print edition. So you might want to get a newer version that will have basically the same numbering system, but it will have large print in case you want to do that. Or you can look on Kindle or something.
Online resources where they actually have audios and they have the text.
Right.
And
there are, of course. Yeah.
All sorts of things. So
there are, of course.
I've been using those, but at the same time, it's always nice to hold something in your hand.
Well, I like to take notes and take it with me wherever I go, and I'm old-fashioned. So for those of you techno-savvy people that want to use an electronic rendition, I say go for it. Good for you. Okay, now let me lay out some underlying principles. Number 1, the first principle for you to understand is that Jesus Christ himself says this is not the only way that will work to yield the fruit of your profound peace. It is just another way. I love that. How many times have you heard so many, call them religions, systems of thinking, philosophies who say that we're the best, or perhaps they say we're the only right way? Well, Jesus Christ himself makes it very clear in A Course in Miracles, this is not the only way that will work to yield the fruit of your awakening, to take the scales off your eyes so that you see everything differently and can experience profound peace. It's not the only way. It's just yet another way. Isn't that wonderful? I love that. But what I will explain to you, Gary, that I think it's helpful to do in studying the Course, I think it's helpful to not draw correlations with other philosophies of thought or other schools of thought. As much as possible, let's take the Course at face value, because the Course is a system of thinking that will work to yield the fruit of your awakening. But if you're trying to compare it to other things you've heard, can I just say you're going to go crazy?
Yeah.
I've heard so many people compare it to the work of Byron Katie or somebody else's work. And while I love Byron Katie, hello, Byron. Hello, my sister. Mwah! I love you. I love her work, but it's a totally different system. Trying to make the Course fit into something else, let's not do that, okay? Let's not do that. Let's let the Course stand alone.
That reminds me of one thing. That's another reason why I started looking at this part too. Is that goes what you described right there was the part where there's the connection to the rest of the universe. There's so many different people that describe that. Course in Miracles is just another one.
Yeah.
Religion, I don't want to call it religion, but church or some sort of is a way to help some people, but Course in Miracles is another. Going, studying, things like Brian Katie. There's so many different things out there.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, they are really all talking about the same thing. Having some sort of higher power, as you call it.
Right. So this system of thinking will awaken you and yield the fruit of profound peace. You will truly understand what's going on in the universe and why you see some of the things you see. You'll know what to do about it. You'll know what you don't need to do about it. You'll know how easy and effortless it is to stay walking in profound peace and be carried by the grace of the divine, the grace and benevolence of the universe. Does that sound good to you? Yes, it sounds fantastic. And I want to just make mention that there is somebody in the chat feature. Hello, I am Sam. Shelley. Hi, Sam. Glad to have you joining with us. It says, be love. It's all one. All paths lead to love. Have a beautiful day. Yes, that's exactly right. All paths lead to love. Some work for some people and others don't, just like Gary just alluded to. And that's wonderful. And it doesn't mean what I said about let's not try to make the course precepts fit into something else. It doesn't mean you can't study anything else also, but don't confuse which one you're studying at a time. You could be in a religion and study the course. Of course you can. You could be in some other school of thought, following some other guru, and still study the course. But please don't try to make the two of them make sense together. Now, I am going to help you comprehend how everything those other gurus teach fit into the course precepts. I will help you comprehend that when I believe it is helpful, but we're going to let the Holy Spirit guide when that happens. Now, the second thing I want to say about the course is it is Christian terminology. That's okay, but what you're going to find, it's Christian terminology, but what you are going to find with studying A Course in Miracles is that while this is Christian terminology, oh my goodness, basically it reinterprets the Bible, and everything you never understood about the Bible and everything about the Bible that made you think God was some kind of an ogre out to get you. The course reinterprets all of that, and you'll see it completely differently. Now, that does not mean, I want to make this clear, I love the Bible. Love it. Love the Bible. My daddy was a Baptist preacher. I grew up studying the Bible. I still love the Bible. But what I want you to know is I do interpret it differently now, and now it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And I want to say this, and all of you can write it down. What the course has shown me and taught me is that, among many, many other things, which we'll go to as we go through this series, Gary, but the course has shown me that much of what is recorded in the Bible is egoic projection onto God. Mm-hmm. Egoic projection onto God. The ego thinking God is that way. The ego saying God's the bad guy. God's the one who believes in sacrifice, when in fact, the ego is the one that is the enemy. The ego is the one that believes in sacrifice. The ego is the one that is the accuser of the brethren. The Course alludes very strongly, though it does not say it specifically and directly. The Course alludes in 3 different places that the ego and the devil are the same thing. I can absolutely see how that's true. The devil in the Bible is called the accuser of the brethren. Mm-hmm. And the ego is actually the one who is saying, you're not good enough, you're bad, you're stupid, they shouldn't have done that to you. And then you project guilt and a whole bunch of other stuff that doesn't serve you. So as we go through this series, you are going to be learning how the Course sets you free from all that. So the first precept is, Jesus says this is not the only way, but it is a way that will work to remove the scales from your eyes, yield the fruit of your awakening, and yield profound peace. The second precept I wanted to lay out for you is that the Course, though it's Christian terminology, reinterprets the Bible, and you will realize the Bible is true and accurate. Oh, it's teaching us. It's very valuable, and it's teaching us. But so often it's teaching us through egoic projection onto God. And after you study the Course, you'll know how to discern the difference. And all of a sudden, the Bible will make sense to you. So much of the Christian terminology that you will hear in the Course doesn't mean what so many people in religion thinks it means. It means something so much more life-giving. I'm going to give you one quick example. When I was growing up as a little girl, there was much talk about the last judgment. And it was as if the last judgment, the final judgment, right? It was like, everybody was afraid. They were afraid of God. Oh no, I'm going to be judged and cast into a fiery hell. Something like that. Well, it makes people afraid of God, right? And then they get all whacked up in life and I don't know where to look for peace. The ego plays that dirty trick to keep you trapped in egoic thinking and to keep you trapped. Well, the Course will completely reinterpret that. But what the last judgment or the final judgment means, according to ACIM terminology, just as an example of the reinterpretation, is it's the last time. The final judgment is the last time, the last one of us here in this egoic illusion, living in this egoic illusion on what we perceive to be planet Earth, all of us, you and I here. It's when the last one of us makes the last judgment about self. And then they get their epiphany. Remember who they really are, and they never judge self again.
It's great that you said that, because I was actually listening to one of the chapters of A Course in Miracles, and I think one of the things is when you stop crucifying yourself.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute, when I stop crucifying myself, so like then the resurrection is when I actually have that transformation from looking at myself as being a victim. I had to think about that one for a while. And, you know, another thing I just kind of, on a side note, one of the things is I was reading blogs and other people's reviews on A Course in Miracles, and a lot of people who have called themselves not aliases, atheists, and still do call themselves atheists, going through the Course in Miracles and the exercises changed their life so much. It says, you know, I owe so much to the Course in Miracles, although I don't believe in God right now or anything like that. They say it's the one thing that changed my life so much, and just being able to be with, I forgot exactly how they used the phrase they used, but it changed their life a lot, and was out of the ego and more into helping other people and just enjoying life. So
exactly,
why not? You know, that goes back to the for getting what you want and accomplishing what you want, and actually having dreams that you have be real, end up being real. Why wouldn't you do it? You know?
Exactly.
What? No.
That's right. And it becomes so much more effortless and just so much easier, because you're actually literally carried when you're in that state of profound peace. Your inner divine knowingness carries you to all of your fulfillment. It's amazing. Okay, so now what I want to do in this introduction on A Course in Miracles is I want to point out another fundamental precept, very important for you to understand. Then I'm going to talk about the few other concepts that the Course teaches, just as an overview. A fundamental precept of A Course in Miracles is that this world is an illusion. You have always been safe in God. Nothing can harm you. You are not separate from God, and you actually never were. And the atonement, the way religion teaches it, did something. It somehow made us one with God again. Well, the fact is, in A Course in Miracles, we're taught the atonement didn't make us one with God. The atonement showed us that we always were. Jesus Christ interjected himself into our illusion to show us, hey, you are not a body. I am not a body. I'm going to give you a word picture that you are not a body and I am not a body. It won't matter what you do to my body. It won't matter how you destroy my body, even though we're not teaching here to be mean to your bodies and to not take care of them. We'll talk about that later. But I'm teaching a principle here about how Jesus was teaching us that we are not a body. So if in fact they slay my body, they haven't hurt me a bit. Because I've never been separate from God and I'm not a body. That's a fundamental precept in the Course. You are not a body. You are a spirit. You are a spirit. And then you hear in some religions, they say you are a spirit having this physical experience. Well, actually, you're a spirit thinking you're having this physical experience. And that is more accurately the truth. So this world is an illusion. Now, it's interesting that quantum mechanics totally supports this now. Science is supporting this completely, showing us how, in point of actual fact, We are blinking out of existence all the time. I'm not really here, and you aren't really here. We're blinking in and out of existence all of the time, really, really fast. And the consciousness that is always there is organizing the elements to perceive or think that it has this experience of separation and duality. So we're really, in fact, not having this experience, but we think we are. And we keep choosing to have this experience. We keep choosing to have this experience, or we could choose to have this experience differently or in a way that serves us better. So it's really helpful to understand that we're not really here and we're blinking in and out all of the time. And with every choice, I happen to be a 5'10" brunette who's 55 years old now, right? Okay, I think I am. Now, because of the fact that I am blinking in and out all of the time, that serves me to know and understand, because then I can change my perception that I want to have when I reorganize the elements in order to have an experience in this egoic illusion. So I can think about it differently and empower myself through thinking. In fact, I could probably change being a 5'10" brunette, but I kind of like it. So what the heck, you know? I keep recreating it over and over and over again. I keep choosing to recreate that over and over and over again, which the Course actually calls it making, because it isn't permanent. The Course differentiates between creation is permanent, eternal, and making is impermanent, that which passes away. So I'm actually making myself a 5'10" brunette repeatedly over and over and over again by choice. I'm choosing it. So why is that beneficial to know? Because it also means you can choose something different if this isn't working for you, right? So if in fact you're not liking the results you're getting, you can reorganize the elements by feeling it differently and reorganizing it differently. And it isn't just thoughts, it's feelings, okay? That vibrational frequency carried through feelings. Okay, so what's precept number 3 I wanted to lay out for you today? This world is an illusion. We are safe in God. You are not separate from me, and I am not separate from you. I don't have to get mine before you get yours, because you might take my share. None of that happens anymore when you understand the principles of ACIM. We're not separate from God. We are all truly one. There's only one of us here right now. Okay? We're just thinking that we are separate, and therefore we continuously recreate the delusion of being separate. Okay. And all of the foibles that entails and all of the suffering that brings. Thinking we're separate from each other and separate from God brings about our suffering. Because then we think, oh, you must be my enemy, or how am I going to make it in the world? And I also want to point out the Course is very clear that that's the reason. Because our spirit, who we really are, actually knows that we are all one. Your spirit actually knows we are all one. That is the reason everyone always chooses to join. That is also the reason why we continuously remake, or in better English, recreate, but the Course will call it remaking, remake the illusion of special relationships. What are special relationships as laid out in the Course? Well, we think being in a family is more special than just other people. We think being in a love affair with my sweetheart, okay, my sweetheart, we think being in a love affair with him is somehow more special than other relationships. But in fact, there's only one of us here. So it's not special. Now, the fourth principle that it's important to lay out, and I'll lay it out right here, right now. The fact that we continuously are choosing to have this experience in this egoic illusion, the Holy Spirit, which is God's agent, the agent of divine to lift us out of the illusion of separation. So the Holy Spirit can utilize all of these things we have made for our benefit and our good. So special relationships, the fact that I'm engaged and my sweetheart and I are going to be married. Okay. The fact that special relationship, the Holy Spirit can use it. If we give that to the Holy Spirit to say, let this be helpful to undo the effects of the illusion that I'm separate, then the Holy Spirit absolutely can utilize that, and it is helpful. So the concept of being helpful is very important in A Course in Miracles. So it isn't that since we know this is an illusion, all of a sudden, if I see a child being molested and I'm witnessing it and I'm watching it, I could just go, oh, well, it's just an illusion. No, we're here to only be truly helpful.
Mm-hmm.
If saving that person from molestation and saving that molester, that perpetrator, from committing that atrocity and helping that perpetrator know who he is and remember who he is, and helping that victim know who she is or he is, and lifting them out of that, reminds them who they really are, causes them to know they're one with us. They don't need to feel powerless. It lifts them out of the delusion that they have to inflict themselves upon other people in order to try to get powerful. Mm-hmm. Remember, the ego is all about getting. Mm-hmm. The egoic illusion is, what can I get out of this? What do I need to get? The ego is all about getting, or what am I afraid I might lose and not get? So the ego is all about getting. If that person is perpetrating, they're doing it because they feel powerless and they think they need to somehow get power. When they remember who they are, and we reach out to them to stop the mania of the molestation, when we reach out to them to stop the mania, we are being helpful. We're reminding our brothers who they really are, so that the victim doesn't feel victimized. Gotcha. And is reinvigorated in their power, and the perpetrator doesn't feel like they have to perpetrate to get power. It is the solution to remind people who they really are. So
questions about that then. So, like, take, for example, just relationships. Let's say you have friends, you'd be like new friends or old friends, or the relationship that the relationship is stressful, or the relationship that I guess for a personal life experience, I've had friends in my life who I will not consider the very greatest of people, but at the same time I can see their spirit and understanding that we are one. But at the same time, some of the people in my life just bug the living shit out of me. And I try to help them out, and they sit there and point their finger at me. I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. You're the one who's beating your kid the way not beating, that's the wrong word for it. Disciplining your children the way I don't disagree with that. Or there's so many, there's a laundry list of stuff that just bugs me.
Yeah. And well, the Course will definitely lift you out of that, because what the Course will bring you back to, Gary, to realizing, and you'll be able to be at peace with what you see. Unless you're, and you will be. You're a teacher of God, my friend. We all are, not just Dr. Janeen Detrick. I'm not the only teacher of God here. So are you. So is everyone who's writing. We are all teachers and students. All of us, we're all teachers and students. The Course lays that principle out. We're all teachers. We're all students. So as a teacher of God, you will be called upon to help, meaning to lift people out of their thoughts of fear. You just asked me a question calling upon me for help to lift you out of your thoughts of fear. So here's the question that the Course would ask you to ask of yourself, Gary, as you look at that relationship, okay? As you look at that relationship with your brother or brother-in-law or whoever is disciplining their kids in a way that you don't like. As you look at that, ask yourself the question, what do I think that means? Because the meaning we add to it is what screws us up inside. It's the meaning we add, and the Course systematically strips away at the meaning we add because we don't see anything correctly. And actually, in point of actual fact, the Course teaches us nothing we see means anything. But the meaning we're adding to it is what messes us up inside. Now, mind you, I might still be being called to be helpful, but I don't get messed up inside, being triggered. Okay. So if we're triggered, if we're hooked, if we go, you know, that gargoyle inside, that ego attachment, thinking we are the ego, which we're not, but thinking we are the ego, it goes, you know that guy?
Yeah.
That one?
Right over my corner. I have him in a cage right now.
Right. That guy. Okay. That is the ego. And it is thinking something about the meaning about what you think you see that is messing you up inside. The meaning you add is messing you up. It's not the fact of what you're seeing. It's the meaning. For example, I'm going to give you a quick example. As a personal development coach with an international clientele, and I want to just issue a caveat that what I'm about to say does not in any way diminish this woman's experience. Oh my goodness. The reason I'm in the work I'm in is because I do have compassion. I am compassion incarnate, right? So that's why I'm in this work. But I had the student on the phone and she said to me, oh, Janeen, you've got to lift me out of this emotional hell. Oh my gosh. My son committed suicide 3 years ago and I'm still a mess. Now, it's awful that she had to have that experience, right? Awful. I feel tremendous compassion for her. But the solution is my focus. Because the Course teaches me we are here only to be truly helpful, to lift people out of their suffering. So I asked her the question, oh, sweetheart, what do you think that means? What do you think that means that your son committed suicide? And she said, oh, well, it means I was a horrible mother, of course.
I was thinking something completely different would have meant to her.
She thought it meant she was a horrible mother, and that's why she was still in emotional hell about it. She was suffering because of the meaning she added. And the Course lifts us out of the meaning we add because, well, how I brought her around to seeing that it didn't mean that at all is I said, do you believe that your son does he exist no longer? She said, no, I believe that we go on forever. See, our internal knowingness knows we are spirit. Even the atheist deep inside really knows we are a spirit. We go on forever. But what they're an atheist against is actually the thought that there's some dude sitting on a throne with a long white beard telling everybody what to do and zapping people to hell. That's what they're really against. That's what they're against. Well, I'm against that too, by the way.
I think one of the things when I picture that's an analogy I give to people a lot of the times. And we all know the movie Shawshank Redemption, right?
Oh, beautiful movie. Beautiful movie.
You know how when he's sitting there, I can't remember the black guy's name for the life of me ever, but I always sit there and picture, you kind of use that as an analogy of, do you really think that you're like in a prison and you're sitting waiting to get paroled and you have a bunch of people sitting at the table with the stamp and saying, a little stamp thing that says you're admitted to heaven, or then you're going to get into heaven and you go run around and play with dogs and animals and cats? You know, that's all bullshit.
And the Course frees us to understand why we create illusions like that. Projection of guilt. And as you and I progress, projection of guilt and what we're forgiving are hugely important principles in the Course. That everything is a projection of our guilt, how we feel guilty. And when we realize there is no guilt, we'll lift ourselves out of that hell, that emotional hell. Okay, so back to the woman's situation, Gary. Okay, so when she realized, no, he's a spirit, he's living on forever. And then I asked, do you believe that he's worse off or better off? Is he happy now? Actually, yeah, I believe he's at peace now. Okay, so you're not upset because your son killed himself and is now free in his spirit and is happy where he is. Because your son being happy wouldn't make you upset. Can you see what you're actually upset about? You think it means you were a bad mother. The meaning we add is what screws us up, not the fact of what happened.
Mhm.
And when we lifted her out, what if it doesn't mean that at all? And then I took her through some processes of, differing data interpretations and the benefit of the benefit, so she could be lifted out of the illusion of thinking it meant she was a bad mother, and she saw it totally differently. She completely got free in one session. And she was completely free and wasn't adding that meaning anymore. So the course is all about that the meaning we're adding to what we think we see is what messes us up. So when you look at those people in your life and your relationships, there's something you think you're not going to get. There's something you think you might lose, and you're adding some meaning. That is the meaning, in fact. What you're going to lose and what you're not going to get is the meaning you're adding that messes you up inside.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you would just look at that data and it wouldn't upset you. Now, you may be called to be helpful and say, would you be open to learning some different skill sets? I think I might have an idea that might work. Okay. You could ask if they would be interested in some additional input that would be helpful. But in point of actual fact, you looking at it and getting triggered inside, you shouldn't be doing it that way.
Really?
You're in an illusion.
I believe it should.
That's going to hurt you somehow. That's the illusion. You're in an illusion that's somehow going to hurt.
I think I sit there and gonna go in circles about that part too, because I understand that, like, some things in my life. Yeah, I understand. I can see some of the things that I make them what I think it means or what I might be losing. And I understand some things aren't true. Although someone's behavior doesn't necessarily interpret as being loving, loving, compassionate.
There's another way you could look at this.
Interpretation of it.
May I offer an additional way you could look at it from the course?
That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay. An additional way for you to look at it, Gary, is that the brother-in-law or whoever it was who was disciplining the children in a way that you didn't like, or whatever is going on, you can always be helpful to them. Because another important principle of the course is, and please write this down, everything is either love or a call for love. Love or a call for love. If somebody is acting badly, screaming and yelling at their little children, wouldn't you say that's a call for love to that parent?
Yeah.
They don't know how to do it any better, or they would.
In my case, there's been a lot of times where I didn't know how.
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe that's.
You didn't know how to discipline your nieces and nephews.
For these other people to help me.
Exactly. It's a call for love. It's a call for, I don't know how to do this. So what we can say to our brother-in-law, something that we can say, you could consider, you could make it your own words, change the terminology, it doesn't matter. But the conveyance of the idea is what I'm getting at here. You could say something to the effect of, what is it about the way your child is behaving that upsets you? What is it that you're afraid of that makes you not think that behavior is okay? See, now you're getting to the core of the parent's problem, the parent's fear. So another precept in the course is everything is either love or a call for love, but what is the opposite of love? And actually the course does make it clear there is no opposite of love, because this illusion is not real. So love is the only thing there is. This illusion is not real. We're making it all up. We're making up stories that upset us, and then we keep recreating it over and over and over again to go insane, right? So that, but what would the opposite of love be if love had an opposite? Fear. So the ego is all about fear.
Yeah.
Fear of what we're not going to get, fear of what we might lose. So the parent whose disciplinary style isn't working and isn't effective, the parent has moved into fear. What do they think they're not going to get out of their child that they're trying to correct? Now, obviously, even the terminology right there that I just used shows you, if you're trying to get something out of somebody, is that love?
Nope.
I literally had a parent in a coaching session, because I also teach a conscious parenting workshop. And I had a parent say to me, I'm just so upset. My son isn't dating anybody. He's a senior in high school and he still has never taken a girl out on a date, and he's never taken a girl to the prom. And I'm like, oh, wow, how awful. That must feel awful for you. Oops, trying not to laugh. No, I really wasn't laughing at the time because I was in compassion being with my student. But she said, it's terribly upsetting to me. And I'm like, what about that is so upsetting to you? What are you afraid you're not going to get? What are you afraid you might lose? And she said, well, all my childhood growing up, I thought it was so fun to go to prom. And I used to envision myself being a mom, and then my kids would go to prom and I would take pictures, and I get to pin the little corsage on and pin his boutonniere on, and I would get to take pictures, and that would be such a fun experience for me. And now I don't get to have it. So you're upset with your son for not dating and not going to prom because you won't get to take pictures? It was literally that simple.
That's why you're laughing.
It was literally that simple. When she realized that's what she was afraid she wasn't going to get, I'm like, is that going to ruin your life? And she realized, no, that's silly, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, so you forcing your son to date when he doesn't want to date, maybe he doesn't even like girls. I mean, if you raise that question, can we let that be okay? And when she realized, you know what, she was adding a ton of meaning about what she wouldn't get, and she realized, what does that have to do with love? Nothing. If you're trying to get something out of somebody, you're not loving them. No wonder your relationships are a mess. You don't even love those people. You're trying to get something from them. Eek, right? Now, and the Course alleviates our thought that we need to get anything from them, because the Course reminds us who we really are, that we have everything. We are everything. We are the source of love. I don't need to get it from you, Gary, or even from my sweetheart, Paul. I don't need to get it from him. I am it. It starts here and it flows out like springs of living water. I'm the source of it, which honestly means the object means nothing. Pick somebody and love them. It's that simple. Pick somebody and just be love for them. Stay present for them, being love for them. If they move into acting badly, ask the $1 million question that the Course teaches to ask.
What does that mean?
What are you afraid of? How can I help you? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid you're not going to get? What are you afraid you might lose? Let me be here for you and with you in this. That is how we be truly helpful, because everything is love or a call for love. Well, we're going to need to bring this to a close here pretty soon, because we've been going on, but yeah, we started a little bit late because of technical difficulties. But I did want to say, Gary, one last thing. In the Course, I want you to notice that it is a compilation of several books. Can you read that?
I cannot read it right here, but I got it recorded. I can take a picture.
It's all right. It is a compilation of several books. Well, the preface is obviously what a preface is in any book, but it's the text, which I like to call the chapters, because across the top of every page in the text, it says the word chapters. Chapter so-and-so, chapter so-and-so. So first is the text, and then we have the workbook for students. The workbook for students are daily lessons. They're very short. They're very profound. They totally retrain the way your mind works.
Cup means nothing.
That's right. The cup means nothing. You got it. You've been doing the workbook lessons.
I have.
Good for you, Gary. Awesome. And then we also have, so the text and the workbook for students are the primary two books in this compilation, this combined volume. But then we also have the manual for teachers. And then there's also clarification of terms, terminology, what the terminology means, and then also supplements. I would like to encourage each and every one of you as a homework assignment so that you can join us next week. Is this time going to work for you next week, Gary, as well?
Yes, I think actually our next appointment, I believe, is Friday.
Friday.
If we, I don't know, let me double check that. I have it written.
Yeah, I think we did decide on Friday. Okay, so be watching for our post on when it's going to be. But I believe Friday at what time?
Friday at the same time, 12 noon.
12 noon, and that is Pacific. It's 1 o'clock Mountain. Okay, 12 noon Pacific this coming Friday. Okay, so what I want to point out to you is if you were all to read through the clarification of terms this week, it would be very helpful for you. Just get familiar with the clarification of terms. And I assure you, if you start there, the clarification of terms, it will completely help you understand the precepts laid out in the course. Okay. And then there are supplements. Now, I want to tell you, may I just share with you my experience with the course in closing?
Please do.
Okay. Well, I was just in a Barnes & Noble like 9.5 years ago, however long ago it was. It was pretty long. And I happened to be training miracles coaches at that time. And I saw this book on the Barnes & Noble shelf because I'm a bookworm and a book junkie and I love to read. So, and it had miracles down the side, and I had never heard of this book before. I had never heard of it. I was still very religious, and you know, the religion that I was in at the time, that was just my path. I've done a lot of religions anyway. So yeah, I've done a lot of religions. Okay. And the word miracles drew me. I looked through it. I thought, oh, this is Christian terminology. So I instantly liked it and resonated with it. And I took it home and I started reading. I started in the text. I started at the beginning because in my mind, you start at the beginning of a book. So I started with the chapters and it was too confusing for me. I'd throw the book down and swear and blankety blank and throw it down and say, this is balderdash. I had a love-hate relationship with it. And then I'd pick it back up and I'd read another little bit and think, well, that's pretty good. Okay, all of this is to say, starting with the text, the chapters confused me. It was too deep because it's deep. Okay, it was too deep for me to start there. Then I started doing the lessons. Even the lessons themselves say, be easy about it. Be easy about it. If you want to repeat a lesson a second day, go ahead and do it. There are 365 lessons, one for each day of the year, laid out for you. Very simple, very short. It only takes 5 or 10 minutes to do the lesson. But the fact is, I had to repeat 2 or 3. I had to take the same lesson and repeat it 2 or 3 days. The course says you can do that. That was much simpler for me. So taking it at a slower pace and really being with one lesson more than one day helped me. It was definitely having its perfect work. I was beginning to see things differently in my life and not adding the same meaning that used to mess me up. Okay. But then, perusing the book a little bit further, I found the manual for teachers. At that point, I was probably halfway through the lessons when I finally started reading the manual for teachers. For me, that unlocked the whole thing. Reading the manual for teachers together with the lessons and the manual unlocked the whole thing for me. It caused it to make sense. I understood it. And the reason is the manual for teachers, which, by the way, A Course in Miracles lays out that we are all teachers and we are all students. In fact, the Course says if you really want to learn something, teach it. Which is the reason why I'm a teacher of A Course in Miracles and I'm a coach, because I want to learn it. I want to awaken. I want to be enlightened, right? So teaching it is the way you get it. And that's why you are also becoming a coach and you're also doing coaching and being a teacher of ACIM, because of the fact that that's the best way to learn. Okay, so the manual for teachers is a synopsis. It's shorter. It's easier to understand. And my suggestion is start with the lessons. Well, first, this week, read the clarification of terms. This week. Then read the very first chapter 1. It's only chapter 1. So if you get to this, that would be great. I'm going to show it to everyone in case they've never heard the course before and they don't know what to expect. I'm going to go to the beginning of chapter 1, and I want you to see what that looks like. It says, the meaning of miracles, and then it says principles of miracles. And you see how they're numbered? And there are 50 of them. Read through the principles of miracles. Read those 50. Just to let the 50 principles of miracles sink into your heart, sink into your subconscious. And may I suggest to you, let it bypass the intellect. Don't try to force yourself to understand this intellectually. Allow the divine to let it bypass your intellect and sink right into your heart. Don't be all detailed about figuring it out and making it make sense intellectually. Blah. That's of the ego. We're done with that now, right? We're done with that. We're going to let it sink into our heart. Okay. So read the meaning of miracles, then start on the lessons. So clarification of terms, meaning of miracles, then start on the lessons, which is the workbook for students, the daily lessons. And in case someone has never seen what these even look like, then I am going to turn to lesson 1. This is in the workbook for students. They're called lessons. So, clarification of terms, principles of miracles from chapter 1, only the principles of miracles, the daily lessons, and then when you're ready, you can start in on reading the manual for teachers. That is, in my opinion, at least that's what worked for me.
Yeah.
Okay? It might work differently for someone else, but that's what worked for me. So that's the way I like to guide you through it. Would that be all right with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, my friend, I will give you one quick experience in my life, from my personal life. There was a time, I have 3 children, I love them dearly, but there was a time when my middle child, my daughter, completely rejected me, hated me, talked to me again. She completely rejected me for 2 years. In that moment, A Course in Miracles saved my life and saved my sanity, because I felt the Holy Spirit envelop me. I saw in vision, and this is something I'm going to be guiding you through as we progress in our sessions. I'm going to be guiding you through this visualization meditation. In that moment when she was screaming and yelling at me, I saw her divided into 2 people. The ego was over there on the left, ranting and raving, and it was the one flapping its face. It otherwise looked like her, but it was kind of a holographic form of her, a little bit smaller, like 3/4 of her size, gray scale, and dead shark eyes. It over there on the left was the one flapping its face. The ego was screaming and yelling and flapping its face, not my daughter. Standing directly opposite me, I saw the real her, the spirit her who she really is, beaming white light. And while she was yelling at me, I had perfect peace. The Course saved me because it is the one that laid the foundational understanding that it wasn't her yelling at me. It was the ego. And that special relationship, I thought I was losing something for a split second. I thought if my daughter didn't ever want to talk to me again, I was losing something. The Course teaches us that these special relationships, mother-daughter, they are simply not more special than everyone else, and that she and I are one. the person she really is can't ever divide herself from me, can't ever leave me, can't ever not talk to me. I absolutely felt 100% assured by that understanding that there are no special relationships, because relationships are not about proximity of bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that spirit-to-spirit communion. And I knew my daughter and I would eventually be healed and be in relationship. And it kept me in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of what I learned through the Course in Miracles. I am happy to tell you that that relationship has been healed now for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations. The two egos can talk to each other again, it sounds.
Yeah, we can talk to each other. And I feel, I mean, it's just all is right with the world. She's the wonderful spirit being she always has been. And you know, her ego was yelling at my ego. But the fact is, I want you to understand, and as you and I go through the Course precepts, you'll learn this more in depth, Gary, and everyone with us in this. And that is, there's only one ego, just like there's only one divine. So if you will imagine, and this is a concept in the Course, if you will imagine divine mind being up here, the high vibrational thoughts of love, it is a field of energy up here. That is who we really are. That is where we are. We're safe with God. We've always been one with God. Only we thought we were separate. And that thought began this whole entire lower vibrational thought field of the egoic thought field, the egoic illusion, where we think we're separate from each other and we think we're separate from God. And that is the seed of all of our struggles, all of our guilt trips, everything. We think we're separate. We think we're alone. So there's these two thought fields, the low vibrational thought field, which is the ego, and it is one ego manifested in many forms. Mm-hmm. We think we see a form called Gary Jackman. We think we see a form called Janeen Detrick. We think we see all these other people who are joining us here, Angela and Ruben. Hello, all of you. And I am Sam and Ashti, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions for me down the road, if you'd like to write to me, I've typed in my website and also my email address. I'm going to close this out now by simply saying, I am as God created me. That's a precept in the Course. I am still safe in God as God created me. I've never been guilty. There is no guilt. The Son of God is free. That's us, Gary.
Thank you.
We're still as God created us. Namaste, my brother.
God bless. So anyway, I guess
I don't think we should let all of these sessions go on this long. Just so you know.
Well, I think I just call it freestyle. I've been on other blabs too, where people schedule for an hour and they go on up to 2.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation goes.
I'd like to keep them shorter. 45 minutes, I think, is good, so people aren't just hanging out there all the time needing to listen, but they can come back and watch the recording. I love you. I love you.
Come back and view it right here, and what's going to happen is going to get downloaded. And once we're done right here, I stop the recording. I'll receive an email where I can download an MP4 for it. I'll send that to you.
Excellent.
And I'll probably upload that to one of my websites.
Load it up to Facebook. Load it up to YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll also send you a thing. And also, it looks like Angela. I think it's only 3 people are watching right now. You, me, and I believe that is Angela. Angela looked like she was trying to join the conversation a couple of times.
Okay, great. Well, we're happy to have all of you if you join, and we're happy to have you listen to the recording as well. We won't worry about that.
Yeah, so.
Love you all.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you Friday, Gary.
Talk to you Friday.